All right, hey everyone. I think we're going to get started here. Welcome to General Body Meeting number 3 of ACM at UC. While we're doing some general updates here, please fill out the attendance form, acm@uc.org/c, to fill in attendance. So just a note, you are being recorded like every other meeting, and our recordings, slides, etc. are available at our archive, acm@uc.org/archive. And you can see a full org calendar at acm@uc.org/meetings. And of course, if you want to join our listserv, that's a way to get meeting notifications. So if you sign in with attendance, you'll automatically be added to our listserv. So what does ACM at UC do? We have bi-weekly meetings. You're in one right now. That either consists of a tech talk or a workshop, usually. We also host social events, Revolution UC, UC Student Hackathon, Make UC, a hack day coming up on Saturday, which I'll talk about later. ICPC, the International Contest for Programming, which is coming up in November. And tutoring office hours are in Rhodes 802A, the ACM office. That's Tuesdays 3 to 4, Wednesdays 6 to 7. Also, I recently sent out an information email about ICPC. So if you are interested in that programming contest, please use that link. And if you have questions, you can DM me on Slack or just talk to me after today's meeting. If you're interested in helping organize Revolution UC, UC Student Hackathon, that's totally cool. Revolution UC is happening this spring, so if you're interested in joining the team that organizes that, just speak to me after today's meeting or DM me on Slack. And we do have that Slack group, acmcincy.slack.com. So we do have a code of conduct. We're dedicated to a harassment-free experience for everyone. Our code of conduct applies. The UC code of conduct applies. You can read that at acm@uc.org/conduct. Slack, again, this is very important. acmcincy.slack.com/signup. It's the best way to connect with other people in the CS community on campus, and there's tons of channels in there. And if you don't see something that you need, you can create one. There's desktop and mobile apps available, so you can always connect to the ACM community. And of course, the code of conduct applies on that platform as well. So Make UC 2018 is a hackathon, a hack day, coming up this Saturday, and you can register now at makeuc.io. I strongly recommend you do that now because space is limited, and we are going to have to cut off registration pretty soon. It's open to anyone interested in programming, technology, etc. Software and hardware hacks are perfectly acceptable. Both are cool. We have tons of sponsors, including Marathon, 8451, UC Student Government, Google Cloud Platform will be there as well. So again, space is limited. So be sure to sign up right now at makeuc.io. Michael, do you want to add anything to that?
If you are interested in doing a hardware hack and you don't have any hardware, that's perfectly fine. We have these really cool Arduino kits. I can say that, sorry. They come with a whole bunch of crap. So like an Arduino microcontroller, and then like sensors, LEDs, there's like 3 or 4 motors, servos, like really a whole bunch of stuff. Sorry? Speaker? Oh yeah, speaker. And an ultrasound sensor, if you want to do that, and a water sensor. So if you're interested in that, we'll be doing a tutorial on how to use that. So yeah.
Yeah, so Make UC is hosted by ACM and IEEE. We're really excited for this Saturday. Any questions about Make UC, the event? Is there food? Yes, there is food. Yeah. The day. What does the day look like? So it'll be on the 7th floor of Baldwin, and a couple of the classrooms over there. And it's kind of like a big open classroom. And here's the rough schedule. It'll go approximately 9 to 9, so about 12 hours. And we'll have a couple of tech talks in between that time. We'll have lunch and dinner. And there will be a chance for you to present what you did and have other people see it. And there's no theme that you need to stick by or anything like that. Any idea that you have is totally open. You can come as an individual or as a team. Both are fine. Okay. Any other questions about Make UC that I can answer? Okay. Cool. Hope to see you all there on Saturday. So now we have Matt from ICR here to give a talk on reverse engineering and cybersecurity. So please give it up for Matt.
Okay, so Hi, I'm Matt from ICR. Raise your hand if you've worked at ICR now or have worked at ICR in the past. Yes, we've got 3 guys already and another guy that's coming up to co-op for us. So we're up in Mason. We do mostly computer security and cyber type work. I also work on hardware and radio. So there's a couple double E's and then a lot of software computer science people that work there. And yeah, just get into, I don't want to talk about ICR too much. We're a defense contractor. We got awesome projects going on and it's fun, but I really wanted to talk about more just like the state of the art or what's the current news, what's the latest going on in computer security. Can you guys read that? Yeah. So, I work on cyber, and I guess you have like a UC cyber thing, and you've got hackathons. By the way, that Make It UC thing, you should totally do that. That's awesome. That's the best way I think to learn outside of the classroom. But if you're familiar with cybersecurity and computer security, then you've probably heard some of these things up on the board right now. Recently, there's been an escalation in the quantity and severity of hacks. Actually, I need to turn on my screen recorder thingy. Come on, baby. Load. So you'll have to sync that up later, but anyways. So, like anything from like rooting or, jailbreaking your iPhone, that's kind of, I feel like mobile phones really just kind of accelerated the process of things because people want to own the software on their devices and, if you've jailbroken your phone, you usually download some app from a Chinese website and run it, and just magic happens, and who knows how it works. And recently, it's so valuable to have one of those hacks that not only does it will somebody pay you a lot of money to have one, but they will actually obfuscate the code and protect it to prevent people from reverse engineering and identifying what the exploit is. So that's kind of jailbreaking community is a huge part of this. Then there's also just like the criminal element, like the point of sale hacks from like Target stealing credit cards. Or there's also like industrial control hacking where, you're thinking of like the power grid or, attacking other nation states that have, nuclear things that they shouldn't have, all the way to like, web hacking where it's like healthcare or financial data, Anthem and Equifax. And then recently, like the 2 biggest bugs that dropped recently are probably Spectre and Meltdown, which are, not even software attacks, they're attacks on the CPU itself. The CPU's got these bugs that have existed for ages, and so I don't know. It's a very evolving state of affairs, and frankly speaking, it's very hot right now. Like businesses are paying more money for it now than they ever have, which is good, but it's still not enough. It's very hard to defend systems, and the resources that attackers have are as big as ever. So offense is getting better, defense is getting better at the same time. If you want to be a good defensive guy, you've got to have a pretty deep understanding of offensive security measures and vice versa. So that's kind of the overview of cyber right now. And I don't have a ton of slides that are lectures like this. I want to have like a workshop where we actually do some writing code and hacking here in the classroom. So hopefully we get this all in under an hour. Is it really 6:40? Oh, I guess we have till like 7:30, or when's the right time to stop? I'll probably talk till 10:30 if you let me. Get your laptops out, everybody. No. Yeah, why would you choose a career? Like, I think it's a great career to, a good place to be in computer security because you get a huge wide variety. I was talking to some guys before, and whether you're a computer science guy or a radio guy or a hardware guy, there's computer security kind of bridges all of that stuff. There's wireless hacking now. There's software-defined radios. There's hardware, CPUs, virtualization. I could read this slide. You guys can read it. Like, a lot of people, I think, about when I was in school, it was basically like, well, if you run Java or .NET, or if you have a runtime framework, then you're probably safe. And then, some years went by with not a lot of Java hacks, but then the last few years, Java and CLR have had tons of hacks. And I think, yeah, actually the Equifax one hack was from Java's, what's it called, Struts framework, which was deserializing XML and turning it into code. And somebody was basically doing code injection or command line injection where they could put a semicolon somewhere and shell out to Linux and get it to execute code for you. So like something as small as a deserialization problem in a safe language being in a safe language doesn't necessarily help you. You can still like escape sandboxes and stuff. Working with software, if you just love programming, you want to build browsers, you want to build huge C++ applications, like that applies to computer security as well. web apps. I already talked about like radio and wireless. If you're into crypto, you're a math guy, lean that way. That's awesome. We don't really have a lot of like math guys that work at ICR, and in general, the field is kind of like cryptography is complicated, and you kind of like be a PhD if you want to really study it. So people usually wind up going to academia instead of industry. But if you're a math guy, like we could always use somebody to help us analyze crypto. And then cars, like that's another, like hacking my Tesla, that's out there too. So I think you get great exposure and balance if you work in computer security. And also I think another great thing is like vertical exposure. So like this is the slide I take out sometimes because I think some people get mad if I poke fun of web people a lot because they'll say full stack. Full stack they mean like front end JavaScript and frameworks like Meteor or Angular, and they go down to like the web server and the data store and the application, and that's their full stack. But like computer security full stack goes like way deeper. It goes all the way down to the CPU and what VM are you running on, what cloud are you on, what's the orchestration, what's the stuff connecting all the things together, ACLs, side channels, and all that stuff. So our stack is like deeper. So that's like the spiel. Yeah, that's why you should do computer security, and do like hackathons too. It's a great way to learn. So you guys do a lot of hackathons here. Like, you make things new. What else do you have? It was on the list. I didn't.
Yeah, we have Revolution UC, which is every spring.
Okay.
That's like the headliner.
So you just get together in a room and program together and come up with projects and stuff?
24 hours, yeah.
24 hours? That's awesome. Have you ever heard of Capture the Flag? Yeah, so Capture the Flag is like the computer security version of the hackathon, right? Where you sit around and try to write exploits and write code to, do weird things. So there's CTFs available as well that are like, some of them are focused towards like college community. Other ones are just sort of out there for everybody to learn. And I'll tell you what, that stuff works because like the guys around the world that do CTFs and get good at it, the guys that are number one up there, will wind up spinning off and doing the latest iPhone OS jailbreak or whatever. So like it's a great way to learn and actually like get good at programming in general. So anyways, so the way I'm gonna like demo this whole thing tonight is via game hacking because games are fun. Who doesn't want to like hack their game and win at Fortnite or whatever? This game is called Point Adventure 3, and it is a piece of software written just for hack. It's intentionally hackable, right? So you can't win unless you hack it. So do I have a slide for that? So this is like the intro. It comes as a Linux or Windows or Mac OS game. You can download it. It's actually still hosted, so you can download this game. And as long as you find a guy that's running a server, which I am, you can talk to me if you want to play this game later, or start the server yourself. You can actually go out and hack this and do this yourself. So, don't skip UC Make, but maybe on Sunday you can play Point Adventure. So you can install it. There's your executable and your file system, and you kind of browse around through here. Like, what I should have said is, how do you hack a game? So like the easiest way is like you download a game, right? It's going to have a bunch of files, and you're going to have a client, like a multiplayer game that is. Single player game, you'll have all the files you'll need to hack it. But a multiplayer game like this is going to have a client and a server, and you're probably not going to have the server code, but you're going to have the client code, and maybe you can like modify the files on your system or change configurations or play around with settings and maybe get things to change. So if you browse around in this installation here, it's pretty obvious there's a file called gamelogic.dll. It's like the designer of this is like, hey, look here, open this file. And so right away I'm jumping into the world of binary analysis. You guys probably can't read that game. Oh well. Let's see, should I change resolution?
I can do boys.
Might be better. Let's see. Okay, so to do binary analysis, like you need a tool that can take that DLL file that I had there and load it in and parse it and figure out like this is a Windows, identify the data structures inside and parse it and load it in. One of them is called Binary Ninja. This is a cheap sort of like targeted for the CTF or the hackathon guys that don't have a lot of money. I think it only costs like $100 for a student version. And it will load this DLL for you and start showing disassembly. And you can go through and read the assembly code and try to figure out what this game logic is. There's also free tools that'll do it for you too. There's a tool called Radar. You can grab that, or like even simple object dump from Linux will disassemble files for you. But the more cheaper or free or open source tools will basically have very less functionality than a paid tool. So this is like the one notch up from free tool, the Binary Ninja, which will disassemble it and give you a pretty decent representation of what's happening. You can browse around through here. The next level up is like way more expensive. It's called IDA, the Interactive Disassembler. That's what we use at my job. Work pays for it, so it's no problem there. But it does a great job of picking apart the binary, and it's been around for like 10 or 20 years. And the guys that develop like the major hacks out there, like the guys that are doing iOS jailbreaks, are definitely using IDA. It's very powerful. And they call it Interactive Disassembler because it gives you the assembly listing, but kind of the key point here is that you can go through the assembly and start like documenting and putting comments in like, hey, I think this function here initializes the DLL, and I think this other function, you can name the functions. So if the developer gives you symbols, then it's kind of obvious what's going on. But if it doesn't have symbols, you can basically like document what you think functions are doing, and over time you can build a pretty deep understanding of things just by looking at a binary object code. So let's skip forward to like the hacking part of this, right? So IDA shows us a function view on the left here. You can't read that, okay, whatever. It shows us a function list on the left. So like the center is the disassembly view, and then on the left is a list of all the functions this thing has. If you kind of zoom into that, you can see here like this function list. If you've done C++ code, you'll see a bunch of C++ functions. You can see class names and function names and even arguments. And so this is, because this is an intentionally hackable game and they want you to kind of move along quickly, they give you symbols with this DLL. And Windows, it's called a PDB file. They give you the PDB file. If you actually go and try to like hack Fortnite, you're going to see that none of these functions have names. They're all just a bunch of blank subroutines that you've got to figure out on your own what they do. But for this, it just tells you like, hey, player, buy item, coin, get coin, or whatever. So symbols is cool. Actually, developers have accidentally released symbols from time to time too. I think it was, what game was it? There was an MMORPG, very popular, that released on accident, like overnight, like one game with symbols, and then of course people shared it and argued the crap out of it. Anyway, so there's a function here called player get sprint multiplier, and as you're playing this game, you're running around like, okay, it's really slow. You like to like run faster, right? You see this function called get sprint multiplier, like, hey, that's a perfect target to like see if we can read the code, understand it, and change it. Get sprint multiplier is a very simple function. 2 instructions. Anybody not figure out what that does? Have you guys ever seen assembly code? I assume you have like MIPS or like build your own processors and stuff here, right? Yeah. Don't be afraid of assembly. So FLD is, this is x86, like Windows and Linux usually runs on x86, right? So this is FLD is a floating point load of something in the data segment, and then return. There's a bunch of decorations that IDA does trying to help you out, like this, and public and virtual and float, all that crap. All it really matters is this thing goes and gets a floating point number and returns it. So if we jump to that thing, to that address in IDA, it will basically show you the bytes are 40404000. And to properly understand what that number means, because you see this function returns floating point and not an integer, so if you treat this as an integer, it's the wrong number. You need to go through and convert this 404040 to a floating point number. So you can do that straight in IDA if you want, or you can just do it like go to a website, there's like an IEEE 754 converter out there, you plug in those bytes, hexadecimal representation of 404040, and it says, hey, that is 3.0. So starting to develop an idea of how this function works, it returns 3.0. And if we wanted to hack it, what if we just change the DLL to have a different number in there? So we'll change the 3.0 to 10, right? So we can't enter 10 directly into the DLL. You got to convert the 10 back to IEEE 754 representation, which is 41200, and go into a hex editor. You don't have to use IDA, you can just use any hex editor. And just find that offset. If I have the offset up, I probably didn't show that. I'll go through this later, actually. You find that offset in the file, 77934, and punch in those bytes. It starts as 4040, change it to 2041, and then you restart the game. And I skipped the video earlier, but You can start to run faster. Now it's 10.0. Like I feel like I'm a little bit faster, and it's actually working. So the cool thing here is that the client, I changed it to 20 now, run even faster. So this definitely worked. It's really easy. You just made a local change to your DLL, and all of a sudden the game operates differently. So, you know, the server's not checking your speed. The client is in total control of his own speed. So you basically make that number whatever you want. And the server says, sure, run as fast as you want. That's an easy hack to make. Start running a little too fast. Like, start bouncing off the crap. I have to wait for this part. I bounce off a rock. I have to show that. I'm like, okay, I tried to record that like 10 times, and I kept bouncing off of rocks, and I'm like, you know what? Just keep that. Okay, so let's find something else to hack. This one is called get jump speed. I'm like, that sounds like a good one. Let's jump higher too. Run faster, jump higher. This one's harder though. It's like floating point load, same instruction, but the argument, instead of being a constant that's just sitting there, is a, if you're a C++ guy, you're like this. Yeah. Yeah, so that's this plus 124 hex. That's an offset into his own class. So he's like reading a member out of his class, right? So shit, this thing's gonna just like sit there in some random location of memory, and you can't just like change the binary to make this happen. You could come up with something at runtime that like goes and pokes memory in, but that's probably overly complicated. Yeah, there's the comparison there. The old one was just a constant. This one is a reference from an offset from a memory reference. So a little more work to do. Let's see. What's the train of thought here? Oh, yeah. So you need to figure out what the player class looks like. It looks like it's referring to some member down at offset 124 in the player object. So you need to understand what's the player structure or class look like. Best way to do that in the disassembly view is to look at the constructor. So this is a player constructor, and it goes through and does a bunch of stuff. At some point, it's going. You see these instructions here, which takes a bunch of zeros or other numbers and puts them into various offsets in the what does it say there? Move, EI, yeah. I don't have the full thing posted, but it's basically putting stuff into the object sort of as a constructor would do. Yeah, and you remember the get jump speed was offset 124, and you go look through these numbers on the left, and 124 is not in the list. So you're like, what the heck? What's happening here? Pause, see if I can figure out. Why would the offsets be different in that code than that in the code on the left? Turns out that's the actual instruction we're going to modify. The reason is C++ class inheritance. These two pieces of code, these structures, these classes will generate two different layouts of memory. The player will have just those three things, you know, so 4 bytes, and whatever string is. So some, you know, maybe 20 bytes or something for string. If you inherit from actor, it has that same set plus all of the stuff from actor. And so actor, the things you inherit from, the way the compiler generates, it can do whatever it wants, but the compiler sticks the actor at the top and the player right below it. And so the offsets change by whatever the size of actor is. So that's the reason why you go make the change and patch the DLL just like I did before. And it starts off as the default is 420, jumping sort of normally there. Normal jumping, jump that high. So I 10x it, you like jump really high now. Awesome. So it doesn't check the speed, it doesn't check the jump rate. A little bit harder because you have to like figure out the offsets into a structure. But that's what? No fall damage. I already patched that out. So yeah, the game just falls apart. I don't know why the developer didn't fix this. Turns out all games, it's like, is it a flat world or a round world? This is like the dilemma, right? Like, are you a flat earther? It's both. 10x, 10x. So I'm actually going to use this hack to actually like solve a challenge in the game now. Once you can jump higher and faster, you can, I think, oh, I didn't show it, or you might have noticed it when you jump off the world there. There was a little island way over here to the right. Like, oh, cool, let's go to that island. So you jump over there, overshoot a little bit. We're at the Cowabunga now. You can control your speed. You can talk to this guy. He gives you a reward or something. Yeah. Oh, I didn't show it. What the heck? You push E and he gives you like a, hey, you won your first quest or whatever. So that's Home Adventure. Like, like that, we just covered a lot there. Like we did binary analysis. We read a DLL, we dumped all the contents. It had symbols, so it made it easy for us, but we had to like figure out what offset things were at and how to convert numbers, and then do patching with any hex editor. So that all worked, and that's kind of the gist of, I mean, it's a game, so like no one, I wish I could sit around and have games all day, but you know, the gist of like cybersecurity is doing that kind of stuff where you're like analyzing binary and making changes to it, patching stuff and figuring out how it works, and potentially like recompiling C code and putting that back in or whatever. So you don't have the source code, but it's okay. We can do black box binary analysis. But there's more. Wireshark, if you've heard of this, it's a network protocol analyzer, which you can download. It's free. You can run it. And yeah, this one costs nothing. You can download it on a computer, run it, and it will capture packets from your Wi-Fi or from your LAN port or whatever. And if you run it, it's going to just like blow by. It's going to like amaze you. Like, wow, there's a lot of traffic on my network right now. If you use like web debuggers, like Chrome's built-in debugger, it's just like that, except it's at the lower level, like Firebug and Chrome debugger. Those will do like HTTP request debugging, right? This will have HTTP requests in it, but then it also has like DNS and TCP and things that it doesn't know about, things that it can't dissect. Things that are like open, like HTTP, it will dissect and figure out all the different things that are inside of it. The things it doesn't know about, like in this case, I filtered here for the IP of the server and just filtered out the traffic of this game, this client talking to this server, and this is just the traffic for moving around and playing around in the game. And so it doesn't parse it very far. It goes through Ethernet, it goes through Internet, IPv4, it goes through TCP, and then it stops, and it's like data, 292 bytes, that's yours. So now it's our job to like parse into that data protocol, and Wireshark you can build dissectors for, and you can actually like pick this apart and make it look better in Wireshark if that's your goal. If you're working with a protocol for like years and years, you definitely want to do that and make it easy to work with the data. I didn't do that for this game because we kind of it's a simple protocol, but we'll get to that later. So yeah, I filtered for the server IP here, and other little video here of like scrolling through the packets, a lot of random stuff. Everything's binary. Look on the right there, you show all the text bytes. This packet up here I thought was interesting because it had strings in it. And stop for a second, kind of hard to read that, but you can see a bunch of strings like names of things that are in the game, like items, like golden eggs. And I thought, hey, I saw these golden eggs. This is our next challenge. Let's go find these golden eggs. And so we kind of have to start looking through here to figure out like is there any information here about the eggs, and why would the server tell the client about the eggs, and that kind of stuff. So if we kind of like highlight, zoom in on just one of those strings, golden egg 1. I might have skipped it too closely here. I think there's some stuff before it, some stuff after it. But like fast forwarding a little bit, like if you stare at this long enough, you sort of start to get, I mean, there's only so many ways you can like encode binary data. You can have like type length values. You're gonna see lengths. You're gonna see magic like enumeration numbers and stuff like that. So there's an ASCII string. There's I highlighted 4 bytes, and 4 more bytes because those look they kind of stand out to me because they have leading zeros and they're sort of smallish. So I thought, hey, what if that was a location? And if you do the IEEE 754 conversion of that, hey, guess what? You get 25,000, negative 18,000, and 260. And those sound like reasonable XYZ coordinates. So it turns out for every item that the server sends you, it just tells you, here's the coordinate of the eggs. So if you're in the game and hunting around for these eggs, it would take you, you would never find them because they're hidden in ways that you can't find them. You have to do this where you go into the protocol and pick it apart and find the location. That's kind of the pitch overall, but I'm not done. Unless you guys want to go. Keep going. You can't leave, actually. Shut the door. What are we going to do? So, this is where it gets interesting. So let's try to live hack this thing. I can run the game, first of all. Unplug my HDMI port. I have to turn something off real fast. So the question for the audience is, we've got Wireshark there, we can look at data. What if I want to, like, on the fly, parse that data and do something with it? Either just print it to me and show me where the eggs are, or potentially modify the data? What if we could, like, change where we're moving, or come up with some sort of, like, shoot enemies code, or so what we want to do is we want to like monitor that traffic while it's moving by. Do you guys have any ideas for how you would do that?
Could you set up your own server to intercept?
Set up your own server. I like that idea. So how would you, what if you don't have a server for Pwn Adventure, right? What server, how would you do that?
You could just set one up with, I mean, it's all Python. So I'm assuming you could just set up some little.
Damn it! No, use Python. Yeah, like we're gonna write some. You know we're gonna write some code, but how would you do that? How do I? So I have Python. I have programming. How would I tell my client, who's normally talking to the server out somewhere in the cloud?
Use a proxy.
Use a proxy. Yeah, on the right track. So what kind of proxy? How would we proxy train? I'll give you a hint.
Would you just listen to whatever port you expect the traffic to come from, and then
Yes.
whatever it does, pass most of the messages along, and then find what you like?
Yes. Hang on, I'm slow. Load back up, come on. I'm still recording. Okay, the game ships with a file called server.ini, and it asks you what host name do you want. So like when this thing's delivered to you, it's going to go and connect to these addresses. So we can change the host name and point it to our own server, right? But if you couldn't do that, in this case I think you can. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I tried it, but let's say you wanted to generalize the solution or the problem to like Fortnite. You want to do Fortnite. You would need to find somewhere in the game. I don't know if they just have a config file with like here's the server, but you need to figure out like what. Generally, it's like a DNS thing where query for I don't know what the Fortnite.com or whatever. Make a DNS query for that. Or give me the IP for that, and go connect to that IP. And so you have to like man in the middle something, and DNS is the perfect thing to man in the middle or intercept. It turns out every operating system comes with the ability to man in the middle your DNS. It's just like built-in functionality. It's called the hosts file. And with Linux, it's like etc hosts. Windows, it is this horrible path, system32 drivers etc hosts, where I think it comes with, no, it comes with nothing. But this is where you go in and say, hey, I am providing my own DNS names. And so instead of connecting to the server, you basically enter your DNS names here, and you say, hey, the thing at master.pwn3 and game.pwn3 is this localhost thing, or not localhost, but 192.168.32.131, which I have a VM set up and running at that address, 192.168.32.131. You read that? Yeah. So basically, like, we're going to do a DNS override to send the traffic to my VM. And if you go ahead and enable that, actually I have the game up and running here, and hit play. It should fail. Where's the server? So now we need to build a proxy. Python, right?
I do decide to do that in the VM and not just like locally on the.
Because that's running Windows, and
Oh.
how do you program on Windows? Actually, it's probably like Windows tabs everywhere. Like I'm leaving. It's awful. This talk is terrible. You install Visual Studio with 6 gigabytes of download. You could totally do it in Windows. Yeah, that would work. And if you're writing Python, like it's cross-platform mostly, right? There's certain OS calls that don't work across all the platforms. But yeah, you could write a listener on Windows. Send it wherever you want. Send it to Mac if you want. Let's see, what was I doing? Okay, so we have something that's connecting to our VM. I want to build a Python proxy. So my original plan was like, oh, cool, I'll just code up a proxy in front of everybody, or we'll like code, group code this thing. Turns out writing a proxy is kind of a pain. Like the simple, the basic gist of it is, let's pull it up, what the hell. Basic gist of it is kind of like import socket in Python, create a socket, bind to it, and listen. So this is kind of like your main thing, and then you, where's accept? I've got accept in here somewhere. Yeah, you accept a connection, and then you, once you take that, you read data and send it to the other side, and you know, the client needs to talk to the server, and the server needs to talk to the client, so you need to read data from one side and give it to the other, and then quickly turn around and do the other way, pass the data both ways, and a transparent proxy, just passing data as fast as you can in both directions, right? So, so it started off as like, hey, we could totally code that up in like 5 minutes. But the problem is there's all these little corner cases, and what happens when there's no data, or you know, what about blocking sockets versus non-blocking sockets, and what about asynchronicity, and it turns into like this massive blob, you know, like I think I got 200 lines here almost. So that was a bridge too far, but I did at least want to show you how you would code up a proxy, right? You could do some basic socket things. I talked about the two-way problem. You know, if you read data from a socket, if you just call read, it's going to block and say, well, I'm going to wait here and do nothing until I'm done reading. And in the meantime, the server is trying to send data to you, you're ignoring it. So you can't do blocking I/O. There's two ways to solve that problem. One is asynchronous I/O, which is what I've done here with select. The other way is using threads. Threads work. You got to create a thread for like every pipe that you want to read from. So there's a read pipe and a write pipe for one way, and a read pipe and a write pipe. So you need 4 threads per proxy. It's a lot of threads. And it turns out this game has like 4 ports that it uses, and there's a lot of threads. So I like the select technique, which basically says, alert me, go ahead and block, but alert me when there's data that's ready to be read. And you can use multiple sockets. So I can say, hey, all 4 sockets, I can serve you all at the same time. Whenever somebody's ready, let me know. And you have a loop that just does this over and over, right? And then, you know, here's your receive call. So I think here we're receiving from the server. Yeah, we're receiving whatever, a blob from the server into buff. And then all you need to do is turn around and send the server stuff to the client. And if you're the client, then read from the client and send it to the server. And that's it. Now you have a transparent proxy that's just shuttling data back and forth. The beauty here is now we're in Python. Now we're in the programming language, programming domain. Wireshark, you can't do this. You can observe the data that's just flying by, make guesses about it, but you can't like interpret it or modify it on the fly. Now we're in Python, and we can do things like take that buffer and send it to a parser. Yeah, that's what we wanted. And the same thing for the client. So now we have a parser. It's just going to return the data. So if I run this, the game should work. We're already further than we were. Like it got to the login page. I have users. Oh God, I think I'm going to turn the resolution down. Yeah, I'm going to have to do that. The game will only run in high def. This projector just nowhere near that. Oh, restart this. Okay, this is sort of about readable. It's not bad. While we're waiting for the game to boot one more time, think about what we would do with a parser. What's the first thing you would do? Stuff. ACM. I want to like make a packet up here and write some code. Guest coder. All right. Game up. Cool, it works. We're in the game, we're playing. It works. Yeah, we can jump around. I don't think I have my, I didn't modify the DLL. That's too bad. But yeah, we're up and running. And we're going through our proxy. It's the beautiful thing. So, oops, wrong button. Ideas.
You can convert the data to a string and look for golden egg.
Convert the data to it. It is a string. It comes in as bytes. So I mean, if golden egg and data. do something like that. Yeah.
We do data dot lower. There's a capital G, right? Or,
Good call. Yeah, why not? I don't know what that does on binary, but it probably doesn't do anything. What about, we haven't seen any data yet. What if we just print the data?
yeah.
This is a binary protocol, so you want to like hexencode that. Or we'll do like open a file. So what if it's like chatty? You know, we don't want to like blast the screen with all this crap, right? So we'll open a file. And write some hex data to it. Let's try that. See if that works. Should do it on both sides though. So we're not doing anything to the data yet. We're just letting it pass by unadulterated. Just want to observe it. Still works. Didn't break the game yet. We will. Nothing's coming out on the console. That's okay. Let's take a look at the directory I was in. Crap. Leftover stuff from last time. Run around a little bit, generate some data. What about fireballing? I can shoot the fireball. Fireball. Sweet. All right. So now I have a server.txt and a client.txt. We can look at that. I got one packet? Sucks. Can't be right. Probably need to restart the game. Remember that. Okay, cool. There's more data. I forgot one thing though. Probably want to put a new line in here so you can see which packets are which. It's kind of a error-prone process, but it's worth it. I don't have any weapons. I don't know. Oh, I probably started the wrong player or something. I'm doing something wrong.
I think your player changed from a man to a woman.
That was a problem, yes. Good eye. I don't know why I'm not getting any data. It's really weird. Huh.
Are all 4 ports running to that?
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely the problem.
Every time you open the file.
Thank you. There's a bug in my code. Yes. You know what the bug is?
You have to append.
Yeah.
Good call. It's writing the last packet every time. That's why I want to do this live though. Like finding bugs as a group, I'm enriched. Warms my heart. Fail. Uh-oh. Sometimes your proxy will hang for no reason at all. Or answer in a really long time. Oh, that's what we want. Sweet, sweet data. Yay, like applause. My goal, I have 11 minutes, is to like parse all of these packets. We gotta really speed up. Okay, so one thing we notice here in the logs is, crap, wrong button. There's some 0 packets, so we could throw those out. What else could we do? Oh, this is interesting. There's a lot of repeated data. So that's cool. We can go through that. What else? Yeah. So, what if we like try to decode one of these?
Did I like dot to ask you?
I think you do decode hex. Okay. Now we have a string. It starts with an MV. It's like, whistles are going off in my head. That could be a move packet. And I kind of highlighted it earlier in the Wireshark. If you basically, you kind of like got to take some guesses, like what could this possibly be? MV is a pretty good hint that this is a move packet, and we got to look at the bytes after that. Like, well, what could the bytes afterwards be? Looks like a lot of junk, but we could take the whole like, what if it's sending coordinates? Interpret it as integers, interpret it as floats. We could try a couple different things, but yeah, what if we try to like interpret it as something? So I like this if golden egg idea. We can play with that. The MVs came from the client side, so I'll do something here. If the MV is in data, you can do like print got move command or something, move. I want to parse some of that data though, so let's. If you're a Python programmer, I'm like, okay, how do I convert bytes to like integers and floats? There's a library called struct, which does this thing for you. It converts integers to bytes and bytes back to integers and so forth. You can unpack bytes. We have to take some guesses at the data types here. You could like integer, and then you got to pass it some data. So equal III, that's a weird format string. You can look it up on the Python docs. That basically says I'm expecting three 4-byte integers, and let's see, give it some data. So give it data. We're going to skip past the MV, so we'll go 2 bytes after the MV and give it 12 bytes because that's 3 times 4. So 12 bytes plus 2 is 14. All right, that'll give us 3 things on the left here. Let's call it XI, YI, ZI. And then we can also do the same thing, but take a guess that what if it's float? Just change your format string to what you want it to be. FFF. We're going to try to get 2 different kinds and just look at it and see if it makes any sense. Print all of them. Actually, I'll do like XI, YI, ZI. And we'll do format XF, YF, ZF. It helps if you provide a format specifier for float. Oops, all right, try that. Oh man. So I got this cool like auto reloading thing in here. Python's awesome because Python's like the language of choice for hackers if you haven't done that already. But I got this code in here that basically says I can basically bang the enter key and it will reload the parser, so I don't need to like do anything. It will just sort of like real-time coding, So I screwed up my code though. Oops. Unmatched bracket or something. Oh man, this is terrible. Where were you guys on that one? Come on. Sweet. All right. It's sending moves. If we just like move around in here, we should be able to like generate data. So like we just got to figure out like, okay, which one of those 2 is right? The integer looks awful. The float looks pretty good. And So we can like go back and, okay, let's just ignore, let's pretend it is an integer. That looks pretty good. Man, if you can get it on the screen at the same time, that'd be great, but I can't with this projector. But you know, when I move, the data changes. It's like jump. Z went up, Z came back down. Like, okay, I think we're parsing it right, that's good. So now we're parsing the move. I don't know why it was 0, that's fair. You guys figure that out later. So we're parsing the server moves, so that's cool. We can do it on the fly. We can like track you can like take this to the next level now, like print that like somewhere else. So we have like a second monitor where you're printing your current location, and you know, if you have there's probably real games that have this where you can just print your location coordinates somewhere else. And now we're like starting to actually like do like runtime dynamic analysis of this thing. The server is cool too. You can go through some of those packets. Let's see. Right there, cat server. Oh man, all these zeros kind of ruining my day. Oops. All right, so a lot of stuff in the server, mostly zeros at the end. But at right when it starts up, it sends a whole bunch of stuff. We can do the same thing where like hex decode some of this crap. Let's see here. Am I getting close? I got like 5 more minutes, huh? Yeah, we can try printing one of these. Oh, sweet. Okay, so we got an MK packet with great balls of fire inside of it. So make, it's like MK, it's probably a make packet. Hey, I didn't write the game. I can't change these strings. I'm sorry. You guys are all college kids. I've seen this before. All right. So we could do like, it's on the server side. We could do the same thing. Try to parse some of these make packets. If MK in data. Go through here. This one's a little trickier though. The string is way out here. There's a bunch of crap to the left. And if you go through here and actually parse, I won't spend more time on this, but if you parse through some of these, you'll notice there's like ASCII strings in a lot of these, I think down here. And if you kind of filter for things that just start with 6D, 6B, or start with the MK, we can kind of like, we've filtered down to the bare minimum. It'll help us get a better idea of how this packet looks. So let's do if MK. Let's kind of kill these things. These aren't really helping us anymore. If MK in data, you know, print data, I don't know, first 30 bytes or so. We're going to write it to a file, I guess. Let's just print it. I have to shut down, I think, because that was an initialization packet. Our moves are still working. That's great. Didn't break things. Unfortunately, we blew right by the. Well, I printed one of them, 6D, 6B. Okay, so we only got one item. We know there's more than one item though. So it's probably in that same packet. We probably just need to print the whole thing. Or we could split on MK maybe, right? We could do MKs equals data.split MK, like 4 M and MKs, print M.encode.x. Maybe we can pick them apart that way. Look, there's multiple MK packets gotta be in here, right? So we'll have to restart again. Funny thing is, I rehearsed this like twice, and I'm not doing any of the things that I rehearsed. This is kind of like, every time I code it, it's like a little bit different. Like I'm going through the MKs with a for loop. That's not what I had planned, but whatever. Whatever works, man. Looks like that kind of worked. Oh, what happened there? 0, 1, 2. Well, that's cool. There's like a counter on the left. And when you line it up like that, it's like, oh, patterns appear. Nice. You see like ASCII strings that are lining up very nicely. And you know, this thing on the left, that looks like a counter, maybe an index, or maybe just like an ID field. If you go through, you know, we got to fast forward a little bit here, but like, look at this ASCII string here, and you can look here, like, it turns out that the length of the string is actually right here. You know, the longer strings are A, and yeah, this long string is F, and I don't know if there's a short one in here or not, but 8. Yeah, this one's only 8 bytes. So we can kind of start figuring out how this protocol actually works, like probably an ID here. I don't know what the zeros are, let's just throw those away. Parse these 4 bytes. Are my highlights putting up there? Yeah. Parse these 4 bytes as a length that's Indian swapped, and then parse, you know, the next len bytes as a string, and then, you know, carry on. So in the essence of time, let's look at some code. It's already written. So this is a thing that does what I just said. Let's see. What code is this? That's not right. Okay, yeah, this is basically the code that does that. Like, it's kind of a similar concept, right? Like, I'm tossing away the zeros in this case. We're looking for the MK, though, and I'm doing that struct unpacked magic. And I said, okay, those first 4 bytes looks like an ID. There's some unknown crap, and then the 2-byte length. And you're doing a byte swap, and then you're passing the data to it. And now that you have Python that knows what the item length is, we can say, okay, starting at 13, start at 13, go plus the item length, and call that the item. Then you can go through here and actually print the item ID, the name of the item, and then going a little bit further, if you keep processing the packet, like do the same thing we did before, like what if the next 3 things are floating point numbers with a location? It turns out that's exactly what it is. So we kind of have our full item packet decoded now. We have an MK, we have a couple length fields, the string itself, and then 3 floating point numbers. You can write some code and actually print where those items are. We talked about like, where are these golden eggs? This code should do it. What's that? Sound like you were like, excited about these golden eggs. Oh, I need to actually change to use that. So that is parser empty. Another beautiful thing about Python, you can like swap stuff out. So we'll change the parser to parser empty. Terrible name, but so taking different code and importing it as one name, as long as it has the same interface, it works great. I like dynamic programming, just in time programming. Okay, sweet, it worked. All right, so yeah, just it prints the items. What's the index? What's the name of the item? And coordinates. Man, I really wish we had more time, but you know, there's the coordinates. So now we know what our location is because we need like a reference plane, right? So now I know where I am. I know where the eggs are, and I can use my fast hack to go and find those eggs. It gets better. Walking around and jumping around will take forever to find these eggs. So we need better code that will like teleport and take us to the places we want to be. Turns out that's totally possible too. I don't know if I have the code for that though. Yeah, I do. So take that information that we just grabbed from the server, we already parsed it out, put it into Python, tell Python, hey, here's where all the golden eggs are. And you do more and more protocol analysis, you gotta keep picking apart things and you start identifying things, and you've got to play the game a little bit too to generate some data. When you go pick up an item, the client generates an EE packet to the server, says, I'm picking up this item. Turns out the server actually parses that and says, hey, are you near the item? Do you have the permissions to grab this item? And things like that. So the server's not totally dumb, it actually checks some things. So you can't just say, pick up all the golden eggs, you know, otherwise it's like IDs 1 through 10, you're gonna say EE 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Doesn't work. So you have to like, there's a few other prerequisites you have to fulfill. And then you kind of need a way to trigger it. And so there's a chat message. My game's not up, but if you push enter, you can like talk to the other users. That generates a message, so we can use the chat message to like start, you know, IPCing our Python process to like do things for us. And so if you send it an egg message, it will generate a quest packet to the server. It says, hey, I'm working on the golden egg quest, and I want to iterate through my list of tuples here with, you know, an ID and a location. And for each egg, I'm going to generate a move packet to the egg. I want to generate a pickup command for the egg, and just do that. I don't know if this actually works. Let's try it. You guys aren't like getting up and walking away yet, so let's try it. I gotta swap this one in though. This is parser eggs. Parser eggs. Try that. Start the thing. Okay. So let's start a new dude. Oh man, let's get crazy. Pink Knight. Oh. Hi, Sam. Okay, we're in a cave. This is like where you start. You don't have any weapons. This is a terrible place to be. But we can use our little chat thing. Let's see if we can. Yeah, client chatted hello. So let's run our little eggs utility there. I hope this works. If not, it's going to be really, really sad. I didn't get any of them. I think I need to like egg. Found a bug. Hey, look at that! It's like finding eggs. Acquired egg, acquired egg, acquired egg. Worked. As long as you type the right thing, it works. So there's like 1,000, not 1,000. There's like 10 or 15 more quests built into this game. I don't know what happened. I broke the server apparently, but and I don't think that solves all of them. Like the last egg is special. You have to like go there and go back to the binary and say, okay, why can't I get this last egg? Let's do that. What the hell? I actually don't know how to do this. This will be fun. I didn't show enough IDA. You guys got to go? Like, I understand. It's fine. Okay. We can stop, actually, too. What do you think? What, good enough?
I'll take a few minutes for questions.
Yeah, that's good. Good call, man. I went way too long.
That was very, very cool.
Awesome. How'd you like?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
there's
Hey.
any questions right now? Would be a good time to ask.
I am ready, available to answer. If you want to like run the game and try to hack that speed hack yourself, it's really easy to do. I can help you with it. Actually, this thing, like I said, Ponaventure is hosted online. So go to just Google Ponaventure, you'll find it. There's a web page, and it talks about all the things you can do. You can run your own server. Yeah, there's the clients. You can download the clients. And then people have already posted like YouTube videos and write-ups on how to like solve these challenges. There's actually some awesome videos for this particular thing. So if you want to learn more about some basic protocol analysis or binary analysis, there's YouTube videos that have like way better versions of what I just did. So yeah, questions? No one's asleep. That's good. What's up, man?
Do you find like if you do that for real game, like
How does it
is
work?
there like defensive coding that's like built in that makes it harder? Like what is like the harder?
Definitely. But like, remember the 80s? Well, so yeah, it used to be like really easy, you know, like this game is intentionally built so you can do things like this. Like, let's not check his speed, let's just take whatever he wants to move to and you can teleport. In the old games, yeah, you'd have like a game binary with RAM and all of your like your health, your HP, your mana, and stuff like that would all be just a structure in RAM. And you could do this. And there's still like like the most popular cheat engine that there is, which people people don't like these cheat engines. So people don't like publish them. They're kind of like closed source. You can like join a forum or know some people that will give you a cheat engine. But there's definitely one out there that will just like load your game, and all you need to do is like fire your weapon or generate some coins or change your health, and then go back to the thing. You have to like attach to the process and stuff. It'll monitor the memory and sort of say, okay, here are the fields that have changed. So you can change your health from 100 to 90 and find the thing in the memory map that changed from 100 to 90. It'll tell you like that's where it is. Once you've identified that memory location, then you can have the cheat engine like say, okay, overwrite the health every time I do something. And so you can, I think it's called cheat engine actually, for Windows. So yeah, but like what are the preventative measures? Like definitely like that's a big part. I don't really know what the tools are other than like it's all about kind of like the web. If you've done web programming, it's all about server-side validation and sanitizing your input, stuff like that. Oh, you know, I completely missed the best part about this. I was going to do like a binary exploit. There's actually like software security where you like have to worry about like overflows and crashes and stacks and heaps and stuff like that. If you want to stick around, I'll definitely show you how to do like a binary exploit thing. So there's that too. Like actually like sending an exploit to a server would be a bad thing. But mostly it comes down to like server-side validation. Checking the jump packet, checking the move packet, stuff like that. Coding your game properly. Then there's like Punk Buster and anti-cheat. So like the big games, if you go to like World of Warcraft or any Blizzard game or any major company, When you modify the DLL, the first thing it's going to do is bail out and probably like alert you and like, report you and ban you from the servers for life and crap like that. So like, don't do that to Fortnite. You'll play it banned. Lose your money. But yeah, Punkbuster and other anti-cheat engines basically will monitor your process memory and constantly be doing like patches and checksums in the background. So if you modify any process memory or safe DLLs, it'll just bail out and catch you right away.
Okay. Big round of applause for Matt. So that's it for tonight. Matt, could you stick around for a few minutes to talk to? Is that fine? Yeah, so if you want to talk to Matt, then go for it. If you want to take some more pizza, go for that too. Our next meeting will be next week. It'll be an introduction to version control and Git. So this is something that you definitely want to attend because that'll help you out in the future a lot. So I'll see you all next week, next Thursday, 6:30.